Welcome to Unlearning with Laura, the podcast where you get to rewire your mind, reclaim your power, and break generational cycles. I'm Laura Stiles, clinical hypnotherapist and mindset coach, and founder of The Mindful Generation, the place where parents come to transform their lives and live with more purpose and freedom. Let's dive in. This episode is brought to you by KARRI, a screen-free voice messaging device designed for families who want connection, safety and independence without giving children a smartphone. As conscious parents, we know smartphones are powerful tools, but they also come with pressure, distraction and risks that developing brains simply aren't built for. KARRI, spelt KARRI, offers an awesome alternative, allowing children to stay connected with the people who matter most, while protecting their emotional well-being and their childhood. You can take advantage of 15% off the Messenger One device. Just use code MINDFULGEN15 at the checkout. Check the link in the show notes to find out more. But for now, let's tune in. Today's guest is Pete Clifford, a British father living in Berlin and the founder of KARRI, a startup on a mission to rethink how kids and parents stay connected via voice messaging. KARRI is building a smart screen-free voice messenger for children, designed to give them freedom and independence without pulling them too early into the digital world. What started as a very personal parenting dilemma turned into a powerful idea. Technology that enables kids rather than distracts them. That idea became KARRI, founded in 2023, and it's already gained some serious momentum, raising 2.1 million in pre-seed funding and sparking conversations about how we introduce technology to the next generation. Today, we'll dive into Pete's journey from frustrated parent to startup founder, the philosophy behind building tech for kids, and how a simple spark of inspiration can turn into a game-changing product. Welcome, Pete, to the podcast. It's really great to have you on today.
Great to be on. Thanks for having me.
You're also my first male guest, which is quite exciting.
Wow. Okay,
It makes a nice change to speak to a dad on the pod. So, no, I'm very excited for this chat. I have mentioned KARRI in a couple of episodes previously, so people may have already heard of KARRI, but we'll just start from the top, and it'd be really great to hear what exactly is KARRI and why did you invent it or come up with the idea?
Yeah, no problem. So KARRI is a screen-free device for young children, and it has asynchronous voice messages. So it lets you exchange asynchronous voice messages between the child and the parent, or between children and children. And it also has a GPS tracker in there as well. So for the child, it means they can be out and about and still stay in touch. And for the parent, it means they can also stay in touch, but they can then keep an eye where the child is if they want to.
Yeah, brilliant. And I obviously big fan because I already have a KARRI and I have the Messenger One here. And my son, who is just about to turn 9, has been using it. It's quite new to him, but he's absolutely loving it because
Brilliant. That's so nice to hear.
Yeah, it solved the problem that we had, which sounds very similar to the reason why you came up with it. So I'll ask you actually, what was the problem you were having, and how did you kind of go about actually creating it and putting it out into the world?
Yeah, so for me, it was my son as well. He's actually almost 13 now, believe it or not. But when I first started thinking about KARRI, he was around 7 years old. And he'd got to that age and stage in his life where he'd begun to come to me and ask for a little bit more independence, for a little bit more freedom, to be out with his friends, to be exploring, to be going to the park, to go play sports, to go to the shops and get a chocolate bar or something. And I wanted all of this independence and freedom for him as well. But it gave me and my wife a little bit of a dilemma because we had decided much earlier not to give him a smartphone or any smart device really until he was 12. Which 5 or 6 years ago was quite late to be leaving it, but we kind of discussed it and decided, no, we really feel passionate about this. We want to do it this way. And it meant we couldn't give him this freedom or independence without having some sort of peace of mind or like safe in the knowledge that we knew where he was. And I think similar to a lot of parents still do even to this day, we then did the experimentation phase where you take a bunch of other technology that was designed for other things and try and hoist it on your child and hope that it fixes the problem. So we tried the start phone, the dumb phone. We tried smart watches. We tried even walkie-talkies. I tried long-range walkie-talkies. And in one way or another, it either sort of part fixed the problem and created a new problem I didn't have before, or it didn't really fix the problem at all. And it was about after years worth of experimentation with this that I had finally arrived at what I wanted, which is what I just described before, which was some form of screen-free device for my kid that would be connected to a smartphone app for me that would allow us to just send asynchronous voice messages when we needed to, like I do with all of my adult friends on WhatsApp as well nowadays.
Yeah.
And if it had a GPS tracker as well, then even better. So I figured somebody must have already come up with that product. So just went to go and try and buy it, and was then shocked to find that it didn't just exist where I live in Germany, but not anywhere in Europe or the US or anywhere in the world. I just couldn't find the products that I had in my mind that I wanted. But that wasn't actually the moment I then quit my job and decided to found the company. It was a couple of years later when I then found myself organizing his social life for him via WhatsApp groups with other parents that I often didn't even know in some cases, and thinking, they are actually old enough to do this themselves now. They're just lacking some form of tool, and realizing, oh, if they all had that device that I thought about a couple of years before, then they'd be able to organize themselves. And that would be also kind of fun for them as well and liberating. So check one more time, but it still didn't exist, which it didn't. And a couple of years ago, thought, okay, the world needs this product. I'm going to do it myself. So quit my job and jumped in and founded KARRI.
That's so cool. Also, like, such a risk because, I guess like when you're an entrepreneur and you come up with these ideas, there's always this like, oh, what if, I mean, there's clearly a massive gap in the market and it's the perfect timing with all the noise from, governments wanting to raise the age of social media and the smartphone free childhood charity doing incredible things. So like you literally timed it perfectly.
The timing, actually, that for me sort of feels like it happened in parallel with the founding of KARRI, because a lot of that stuff hadn't really started yet at the point I started it. For me, the validation of should I do this or not came mainly from pitching the idea to other parents, of which I had many friends and family that were in exactly the same age and stage as me, and them going, what, that doesn't exist? Surely that must already, that's such a simple idea. Like, why does that not exist? You should do that. So like, it was the kind of reinforcement of hearing lots of other families struggling with the same problem. That was enough to make me go, okay, let's take the risk. Let's give it a go. Yeah.
Yeah. That's like the perfect validation when there's real life people around you that need it. So do his friends have them as well? Is there a group of them that all have one?
What's been really interesting for me is that when we started it properly with some real product was 2 or 3 years ago. So he was still perfectly in the age range for it. So in the early period of testing, him and his friends were the perfect test bed. So I got them to do all of the early testing. But in the meantime, he's actually almost 13 now, and we kept our promise. So we gave him his smartphone at 12. We weren't delighted about that still and would have rather done it later, but he was the last in his class by about a year to get his smartphone. So it was still very late.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was a wonderful, wonderful test bed. But he's also a great test bed at this point in terms of looking at it from the perspective of a 13-year-old. Like, what has the transition been like from having nothing or something like a KARRI to now having a full-blown smartphone that he has? So I feel like I've seen the entire child journey, if you like, through our product experience. Yeah.
Yes. And I suppose, because he's that bit older than, just comparing him to my eldest, who's just about to turn 9, I guess it's the timing thing, isn't it? Like I have friends who have older children, friends of mine, their eldest has just started secondary, and they did the same. They said a few years ago, you will get a smartphone when you start secondary, and he now has that. And I think there's a few different elements to these big decisions, isn't there? There's like whether your child is going to be emotionally kind of secure and have high enough self-esteem and be resilient enough to know that they're going to have healthy kind of habits with it and not get sucked into dangerous kind of content or whatever.
Yeah.
And then there's also the peer pressure thing, which I imagine would have been quite tricky for you back in at that sort of point in time. Because for me, I feel like the parents of the kids in my son's class, we're kind of all navigating this together. And I think maybe a couple of kids have smartphones, but a lot of us are, thinking the same in terms of, and I think it's because I'm putting a lot of stuff out there about the smartphone from childhood, and I had a stall at the summer fair, and people are talking about it a lot more openly now, and there's the Parent Act and all of that. So it's just so hard.
I think at the point that we gave our son his smartphone, and I think that's the same for almost all parents, we weren't giving it to him because we wanted to give it to him. We were kind of giving it to him because we finally given in to giving it to him and had resisted. And I think that's the same for a lot of parents. They're giving it in because of the pester power or the wish to please the child, but it's against their gut. It's against the instinct of what they really want to do. And when you then take a step back and think, why does the child need this, or why do I feel the child needs it? For me, there's mainly two things, which is I'd like to be able to stay in touch just in case I need to. And I'd like to be able to see where they are just in case I need to. Like, at the core, that's kind of like the two things.
Yeah.
And for that, they don't need a smartphone. So like, then for those two small things that they really need it for, you then put this incredibly powerful tool in their hands that opens them up to an entire digital world that they're definitely not ready for. And we find it very difficult to put the parental controls on to make sure that the experience then is suitable for a 12-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's so fascinating. I feel like the peer pressure thing is just something that people are battling with so much. And I see it a lot on social media, parents with quite big platforms saying, oh, my son or my daughter has been really pestering me about this, but I don't want them to be the only one that hasn't got it. And I really don't want them to get bullied. And, I can just see people just grappling with that decision with such angst. It's just like, what do I do for the best?
And to your point, that maybe there's a couple of people in your child's class now that have got a smartphone, a couple of children that have got a smartphone, but it only takes a couple. As soon as those first couple come in, it normally, in our class, for example, it was 6 months from the first smartphone until practically they all had them.
Really?
And our idea with KARRI would be actually that if we introduce the devices to a, say, year 4, year 5 class, and lots of kids have them, it then liberates the parents to go, you've got your solution, you've got your KARRIs, you love your KARRIs, you don't need smartphones, you can stay in touch with one another, you can stay in touch with us, we can see where you are if we need to. Maybe in the future it'll do other stuff like be able to pay on the go, for example. And then it does all of the things the child would enjoy and that the parent wants it to have, while having none of all of the other stuff that comes if you give them a full-blown smart device.
Yeah, definitely. Funnily enough, someone in the playground was chatting at the pickup last week about getting their child one of these smartwatches, which has been designed for children. I can't remember like the exact functions of it. It sounds quite good. And I'm such an annoying parent. People must find me really annoying because I'm always talking about like parenting stuff that kind of, I don't know, like it's always to do with like the well-being of like the parent and the child and like mental health kind of related. And I was like, can I just butt in, sort of like really having a nosy? And I was like, I'm interviewing someone on my podcast next week and he's invented this thing called a KARRI. And I literally went on the website in the playground and showed them. And they were like, that sounds amazing. And I was like, well, hopefully I might get this discount code. And I was literally just like telling it already. I was like, and they both said, yeah, like I'm being pestered already. One of them, I think, had a younger child at the age of 6 or 7. And I was like, it's perfect for that age group because, at home, use them as like walkie-talkies. They can be a bit of fun. And I started thinking about my youngest, actually, because he's 6 and he has a couple of really cheap, like, toy walkie-talkies. And every now and then he's like, Mummy, talk to me. I'll go upstairs and you talk to me. And, they're just like very annoying toys. But I was like, well, I guess now that my eldest has one of these, if we get one for George as well, they can play with them and it can almost be like a bit of a toy thing as well as,
We've got quite a lot of users that are either just using it parent to child or like parent to grandparent to child. And then the bunch that have got it in chats where children are connected to one another. When it's children connected to one another, the amount of messages that goes sent back and forth is so much more. Like as a parent, you can mute the chat in your app so that you don't have to get the notifications of the kids chatting back and forth, because for them it's more fun, right? Like when you're using it with your mum and dad, it's mainly just, are you going to run late, or are you safe, or is everything okay? Did you see that I packed your lunchbox for you in the bag? But for the kids, they're just like sending jokes back and forth and
just talking absolute rubbish.
But like what I love about it is it's audio and voice based, where you have all of the nuance and context and emotion and all of that still there that you can't get from text. Like that's the thing also with a smartwatch or like a dumb phone, if you like, or even a smartphone. A lot of it then goes into text, and text loses all of the nuance, it loses all of the emotion, loses all of the engagement. So I think that was, it wasn't necessarily what I was thinking about when I founded the company, but as we've gone along, the voice and audio part of it really feels like it's central to the experience for the child. It's kind of a gradual introduction to the digital world before you go full blown into smart devices.
Yeah, it's such a perfect way to do it, because sort of recent years, my eldest has wanted to leave a voice note for a friend, and I'll say, well, I'll get Sarah, his friend's mum on the phone, and let's do a WhatsApp. And he will WhatsApp his friend, and it's quite cute. They'll leave messages, and then he'll want to do it, and I'm like, well, yeah, okay, that's enough now because it's my phone and I'm actually doing whatever on it.
Right.
So
Right.
once we've got this, it's just so, yeah. None of his friends have one, but I'm just going to keep talking about it. And
I mean, we have a huge amount of referral, like friend recommendations that sign up. Because I think that the great thing about it compared to other toys, for example, would be that it's truly like an out of home device for a lot of kids. So you'll see it at the playground, you'll see it at the school gates, you'll see it in the classroom, you'll see it at tournaments, you'll see it when you're play dates, and parents and children alike will go, "What's that?"
yeah,
Because it also doesn't look necessarily like anything else. So it's a great opportunity for them to learn. And the more kids that have then got the carries in a particular class or in a particular neighborhood, the easier it is then for the parents to say, okay, we don't need to give some smartphones out yet. Let's push that back as late as we possibly can. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And just going back to what you were saying about when it's written on text, I actually had a meeting with the head teacher of the school a couple of years ago it was when the smartphone free childhood very first started, and I was like, this is amazing, I'm going to start talking to the school about it, because I knew that it's a primary school and kids had smartphones, and I was like, it doesn't sit right with me, so I'm just going to start kind of just creating awareness around this campaign. And the head teacher said, there's some kids who are already crying at the school gate before they've even stepped into the school, because they've got over 200 WhatsApps, and because their brains don't understand the context and the nuance of the message. And it's just like causing so much anxiety. So yeah, for that reason alone, the voice notes, it's a safer way to communicate, because you know exactly what a kid means or a parent means when they speak.
That's one side of it. And I think the other one that I always try to refer to is the KARRI devices don't have a telephone number. And again, that wasn't necessarily a thing that we thought a lot about at the very beginning, but it's ended up being one of the key things that parents tell us they really like about it, because they always worry in the case that they're giving any kind of device like a smartwatch or a dumb phone or a smartphone to a young child that it's got a telephone number, and a telephone number that hypothetically can be contacted via text via strangers who are potentially posing as other people. And with KARRI, the only people that can contact the device are those that you've approved over the app, and only using the app or KARRI's. So there's no phone numbers. You're fully in control of the experience. So
yeah,
I think that's another limit with the other things that I experimented with that KARRI's helping with.
Yeah, it just feels really safe. Tell us a little bit more about how the app works. Obviously, I know because I've got a device now, but yeah, if you could just talk a little bit about the app and how the SIM card works, and that side of things.
Yeah, sure. So when you buy the device or devices on the website, and there's a big discount if you buy more than one. If you buy multiple, you get quite a deep discount. You also then buy a membership at the same time. We offer monthly, annual, and 2-year plans, and each of those plans gives you a slightly different product experience overall. But for most customers, when you receive the device, the first thing you do is download the app and connect the two together. So that makes you sort of the super admin, if you like, for your child's device. And if you've got more than one, then you can pair them all at the same time. And the very first thing that most parents then do is create a chat with the device. So either they just create like mum and dad to the device, or maybe just mum to the device, and a few messages will start going back and forth. But then they normally realize, oh, we could also add grandma and granddad to this, or we could also add the babysitter to this, or we could also add like the tournament trainer, organizer to this. And they then can decide which adult admins are allowed to communicate with the device or see its location. And that's the next thing. So the next thing is normally, oh, now they've got this, they could start to do a couple of things that I've been thinking about letting them do, like go down to the park on a Saturday afternoon, or walk to their friend's house for an overnight date, or stay over at grandma's without getting some separation anxiety. And that's where you then see, obviously, the GPS tracker and see the location, and you can decide how up to date you want to have that. You can either have it at like extremely live 1-minute refreshes, or you can say actually every 10 minutes is enough to know where they are without having to constantly see it. And you can also create safe spaces, multiple safe spaces if you want, around neighborhoods or areas where if the device then goes out, you get a notification to say, and if they come back in, you also get a notification
I love that
to say. And then the bit that's the best for the kids is then as soon as their sibling or friend has a KARRI, and then you create a chat for them together. And you can create chats that have multiple KARRIs. And some of our chats have got, I think, more than 10 KARRIs in one chat, kids with KARRIs. And then the kids can start talking to one another. The main other thing in the parenting app is that you can also use it, for example, on Wi-Fi. So you can then say, actually, while it's at home, I want it to be connected on the Wi-Fi. And you can also see which chats they're in and how many messages they've got not listened to, etc. So you can
Yeah.
see a little bit of that in the admin.
So clever. I love it. I think it's fantastic for those who have family members that live far away. And, I've got my dad is in France. I've got a brother in Japan, another brother in Qatar. My mum's in Devon. Yeah, everyone is like all over the world. So what I love about it is he can leave a voice note to his uncles and just like they can mess about and talk a load of bollocks to each other. It's just quite sweet that he's got that independence to just randomly leave Uncle Ollie a voice note.
Yeah, and this was like one of the things I struggled with walkie-talkies, because it took me a little while to find the right way to describe KARRI without it being confused for a walkie-talkie. So like even now, many times somebody will ask me like, what's the range? With the assumption that it's being done on radio waves, but it's literally data-based. It's based on the same data network that a smartphone has. So it doesn't matter whether you're in Australia, Qatar, US, UK, wherever you are, the child can then use their device, but also can communicate with anybody wherever they are. So it's, unlimited range is then how I describe it now.
Yeah, it's brilliant.
I think related to that sort of separation, one thing that's been really surprising in a pleasant way, I would say, for me within the first couple of years is we have an awful lot of separated parents as customers, because they're dealing with a completely different challenge. And that challenge is often that they're separated. And if they are not getting on so well after separation, but still want to have digital access to their child, it can be really difficult to do it without going on a WhatsApp call or trying to do a FaceTime video call where the other person's perhaps in the background listening in. And these parents are actively seeking out some form of solution that lets them keep a direct communication line with their child in the time when they're not together, that makes the child feel safe, bedtime, waking up in the morning, for example, but that doesn't necessarily then need to involve their ex-partner. And I was talking to a solicitor a couple of weeks ago who was saying that what they see now in family courts is that with separations, digital access to their children when not together physically is now practically the number one thing that separated parents dispute about, and that they find it very, very difficult to find an agreeable solution to. One side will say, let's just give them a smartphone, and the other will say, I don't want them to have a smartphone, and they can't then find an agreement. One of our earliest adopting customers actually brought a KARRI to the family court to present it to the people there, and the people actually said, like, it's like the dream solution. Like, we've been waiting for this idea, like some sort of this solution to propose to parents that come to family court for a long time. So it feels like it's a really great solution for them too.
Yes. Oh, thank you for mentioning that point, because I was actually thinking about that the other day, and I did want to ask you about it. And it's such a good one. It's such an important one, because there are, like you said, there are a lot of, co-parents that maybe it's like a very early divorce that is still raw, or they're just never going to get along. And that is just such a great way for the child to have that autonomy and be able to easily contact a parent. And I was going to mention about sleepovers, because I have slight anxiety around sleepovers. I know you get different types of parents. You get these sort of like helicopter parents. And I like to think that I really want to know my children are safe, but I really also want to know that where I grew up, we were always out the front, out on the streets, out kind of, it was a busy road, but we were in each other's gardens. I had a lot of neighbours, and we were always climbing over fences, climbing trees. And my parents kind of, it was the 80s, you had kind of free reign to a certain extent. I kind of want that for my kids. I want them to have the independence and to know that, the world is your oyster within reason, and know that they're safe. And thankfully where I live, it's a village, and we've got a couple of kind of safe greens nearby where they can play and stuff. But when I think about, as time goes on, sleepovers and invites to things like that, and knowing if there's a parent that you don't know within that household, or maybe you're just a little bit curious about certain things, just to know that they're going to be safe with a KARRI, I think is another good reason.
I mean, I'm also a child of the 80s, so I can remember with my sleepovers, my mum would say to me, like, yeah, you can sleep over at your different friend's house, no problem, but you'll always call me on the landline at 7:30 just to say you're there and everything's all right. So I guess that was kind of the original version of that, but most families don't have a landline anymore. And I guess it would probably be quite weird for an 8-year-old or a 9-year-old to go up to their friends' parents and say, can I just borrow your smartphone to call my mum, and or just text her? So in that, I mean, KARRIs are very popular to take to sleepovers for exactly that reason. They're also really popular for parents that have to travel a lot for work. Like if you're away a lot for work and you want to be able to just quickly drop a good morning message or a good night message without doing again the thing of calling your partner and trying to FaceTime and then they don't answer and then it's not good because it's bath time. It's a good asynchronous way to then actually keep that emotional connection. My best friend, actually, he travels a lot for work. He's got 2 young daughters, and that's been like one of their main use cases, is that he can then say good night and say good morning and keep that connection.
Yes. Yeah. Fantastic for that. Yeah. And I'm generally a big fan of voice noting. I voice note friends all the time. So it's just a great way for them to, I don't know, grow up doing that first. And then once you do get the smartphone at whatever age, like you said, it kind of weans you into that stage.
Yeah. You know what the biggest challenge I had with KARRI when we first started doing the product testing is that my son would always send me a voice note at the worst possible time to listen to it. It would normally be like when I was driving or when I was on a business call or cooking or something. So one of the very first features we put in, and I didn't think that much about it at the time, but it's become a really popular feature that we have, is that it transcribes the kid's message. So that if you just can't listen to it at that time, and often when you get that first message from your child, you want to hear it straight away. It's not like, oh, I'll listen to that in half an hour or something. Like when the message comes in, you obviously want to know straight away what they've said. And so the transcription's been really good for that. And we've even managed to make it in a way where it recognizes the language of the voice message and transcribes in your local language. So whether it be German, French, Spanish, it will actually give you the transcription then in your local language, because obviously the kid is not going to do it in English for your benefit if it's not their mother tongue.
Yeah. It's fantastic. I feel like you've thought of everything with this device, and you've got obviously the two, I know we spoke briefly before, you've got 2 different versions at the moment. You've got the Messenger one, which I'm holding up here, and you've got the Messenger 2 there.
Yeah, that's the one here.
Yeah, which is a slightly kind of more slick version, and you've got the slide function recording, haven't you?
Yeah, with the Messenger one, it was a halo light, so you can see in the middle there. Like the halo light basically told you which chat you're in. Red was one chat, pink was another chat, blue was another chat. And now actually you can see on the screen like what the name of the chat is, and you can be in different chats. So you can actually scroll through the different chats and then send a message in each chat and see if you have unheard messages in different chats. So this is definitely a step up. One of the big feedbacks we got from parents that were using this one, if they had a slightly older child, they would say, you've limited this one to 4 chats, which we did because it was this color halo light, and it was a bit hard for the kid to then remember which chat was which. And with the new one, it's unlimited chats. So theoretically, for the slightly older children, they can have 5, 6, 7, 8 chats if they want to, depending on if it's family or friends combined together.
Oh, that's really clever.
And there are a couple of things, though, that parents tell us still that they would like the idea of it being able to do, that we would then try to gradually build into it. And we're always trying to weigh up between, is this feature going to be both sort of useful for the parent, but then not too distracting for the child?
Yeah.
So an easy one, I think, is making it possible to do tap to pay, sort of like on the go payments.
Yeah.
That's something where you could say, okay, the parent is going to love that as a feature because it means they don't need to give them cash. They don't need to necessarily give them some form of kid's credit card, but then they can still pay on the go if they need to.
Yeah.
But it's nothing that's going to distract the child. There's other things where sometimes people suggest we could add entertainment, and we could add all sorts of other different kind of like audio content. And I think we wouldn't necessarily rule that out, but we would always try to judge it in the perspective of, will this then end up making it too distracting? Like, it should be a piece of technology that keeps the kids' head up in the world rather than looking down too much.
That's it. Yeah, it's trying to find the balance. I guess it depends on age. It depends on the child. I suppose everything depends on the child themselves. Like, are they going to just be like, I don't know, sitting on the bus playing music really loud and for it to be annoying for other kids? Or, but yeah, I guess like the world is your oyster with different ideas and things that you can add to new versions of it. So what's next? Obviously, you've got the Messenger 2, which is...
Yeah, so the one that you've just shown before, that one's available on our website right now in 5 different color variations. If you're purchasing now, it's shipped within 3 to 5 days, especially for sure in the UK, but actually pretty much everywhere in Europe as well, I would say. And with the new one, with the Messenger 2, it's on pre-sale, so you can buy it already. It's a great price if you buy it now. It's like almost a 50% discount if you're buying now in the pre-sale, but shipping first in May. So we have started shipping the first ones to customers in the UK, but the ones that have already bought like 5 months ago. So we've had quite a long waiting list. And then, from May onwards, it would then be available on our website. And we this year start to explore bringing it into retail as well. So I think that you'll start seeing KARRIs hopefully in some retail outlets out there, both
Amazing.
online and offline.
Are you allowed to say the
Uh,
retailers, or is it
I
too early
won't.
to
Yeah,
say?
no, no,
Yeah.
yeah, I won't. Yeah.
Okay.
The ink is not fully dry, so I won't
Yeah, yeah.
say it. Yeah, but it's it certainly looks really promising, and I think what I'm excited about that for is that it brings in a much bigger awareness. So
Yeah,
at the
absolutely.
moment, we rely mainly on word of mouth and some of our own online advertising. But as soon as you might see it in your favorite retail store, whether online or offline, it's going to have so much more of a, what is that? And it's quite a new thing. It doesn't sort of sit anywhere comfortably category wise. So it's quite a unique thing to be there in the store online.
And then I guess that will, I'm assuming, kind of allow it to grow into new markets.
Yeah, I mean, so we don't actually limit orders at the moment. So we take orders from all over the world. We take orders from Canada, US,
Okay.
European country, Australia.
Yeah, I wondered about the
Um,
US.
we mainly focus on the UK in terms of our own messaging and marketing, but we every day we're getting orders from countries all over the world, and
Yeah.
we ship the devices as well as we have active kid users and parent users all over the world. I think that the key probably for the rest of the year for expanding internationally will be working together with distributors, which we get quite a lot of contact from already as well. So yeah, lots of
Yeah.
exciting opportunities. Yeah.
Very exciting. And how, just on a kind of a personal level now, like how has it been? I know you worked in supply chain and you worked for a very big, well-known retailer, and you've obviously sort of gone from doing that to becoming a fully fledged entrepreneur, building something that's very cool. How has that transition been for you?
It's a really good question. I think that by personality type, I'm somebody who quite likes the new.
Yeah.
And so to pivot out of something that I've been doing for almost 20 years professionally to something completely new that I didn't know anything about in my early 40s was actually fantastic because it was something that I didn't understand, something I didn't know a lot about. So every day felt like I was learning a lot and out of my depth a lot, which feels uncomfortable sometimes, but then also cool to have, in your mid 40s as well. So for me, it's been a fantastic experience. It's also been a great experience in terms of finding the people that then help you do it, because the only real kind of practical experience I bring to the table is, like you said, in supply chain and logistics, which is not a big thing at the beginning. So I have two fantastic co-founders now, one who's got hardware development experience and another one who's got software development experience. And they obviously bring totally different perspectives and experiences. And our team is very, very diverse and international. So it's been really nice to just build the team up and have this kind of early energy of the startup at this later stage in my life, let's say.
Yeah.
Not
Oh,
late
it's not
stage,
that
later stage. Yeah.
mid stage, mid
Yeah,
stage.
yeah, yeah. I think at the same time, it's also really nice to just be working on something where when you explain it to people, they go, "Okay, that's going to do something good for the world." Because guess there's plenty of business ideas you could pursue that would be lucrative or very interesting, but you still might explain it and people might go like, "Oh, okay." But whenever I explain KARRI to anybody, whether they're a parent or non-parent, go, "Oh, I really see how that's going to help and that's going to make a difference."
Yeah, I think that's why I'm so enthusiastic about it and why I keep telling everyone about it, because it really is. I feel like it's already making a difference, but it's you're kind of just going to catapult now. I think this year will be a very exciting year for you, and I just feel like that's definitely fixing a big problem that we're all kind of hearing about and seeing, and especially in the news at the moment and that kind of thing. It's fixing a very big problem, and so very exciting. And you've
I had
just
a question for you, if that's so.
yeah.
Do you want to do interaction or do you?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to ask you, in the work that you do with relation to smart devices or technology in the hands of children, like what is the number one pain point, whether out of home or in home, that you're hearing from parents
Mm.
on a daily, weekly basis? Because I mean, there's many problems that they cause, but like if you had to say a number one, what would it be, do you think?
Yeah, I think it's just the addictive element to screens. Because most of my clients, I have to say, the people I work with day to day have got younger children. So they might be kind of under 10 mostly. And it will be things like iPads and YouTube, and just the parents maybe not kind of having the full awareness of just how unregulated YouTube is and how all those bright colors and sounds and crazy kind of YouTubers, you know, doing their thing is literally like dopamine attack on the child. And so
Yeah.
that, I mean, most people are aware of that, but sometimes I'll come across parents in my coaching and I'll have to kind of just share the knowledge that actually that, you know, this stuff is unregulated and it is going to be causing them so much dopamine all in one big hit, and then they have a spike, and then they're just going to probably have withdrawal symptoms when that is taken away. And that's why this behavior is being caused, and kind of explaining that. And then also, I guess, the people with older children, it's just literally that kind of smartphone, again, addiction, just like knowing to have boundaries and knowing like, how do I come up with the boundaries, but how do I make sure that I'm really rigid with them and kind of stick to them? So like if they have a smartphone and
Out of interest, so what's the typical concern about the addiction? Is it that they then never leave the house and they feel that's unhealthy? Is it that they are neglecting their schoolwork and friends and that's unhealthy? Or is it that it's spoiling their personality and that's unhealthy? Or like, is it all of it?
All of it. I'd say all of it, but I think some of the parents that I've spoken to, it's when they get really angry and rageful once it's taken away, because the parents get to the stage where they're like, I've had enough, you know, you're on your phone too much, and if you're in your bedroom until 1 a.m. glued to your phone, which we know is unhealthy, we're going to have to like put in some more stringent rules. And then they go to do that, and the child first of all will have withdrawal symptoms and can go really rageful and get really angry. But then if the parents do kind of stick to some new boundaries and rules, after a kind of like a week or two, they start to get their child back. And it's quite emotional. I don't know if you watched this program with Matt and Emma Willis, who are presented in, and what was it called?
Emma Willis is an early user of KARRI.
Oh, is she? Love that. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I loved that. I think it was called Swiped, wasn't it? And it was Channel 4. And they did that experiment with took the phones away for 3 weeks. I really enjoyed watching that because the kind of getting an insight into these lives of these parents is that the situations they were going through and the experiences they were having is similar to what the parents that I work with have dealt with. And it's just really hard because you go into parenting without a rule book or a handbook, and navigating that side of things, I think, has just been super stressful.
To your point of addictive behaviors, it happened for me a little bit with some of my son's friends during half term last year. I went past our local bakery and saw them sat in the bakery, sort of three of them together, not my son, but three of his friends, good friends, and they were huddled around a phone. And then later on that day, I actually asked my son, like, oh, I saw your three friends at the bakery earlier on, or like on the phone, like, why were they in the bakery? And he was like, oh, their parents had to switch off the Wi-Fi while they go to work, but then they've worked out that obviously if they just meet up at the bakery, they can use the free Wi-Fi at the bakery. And I think for me, that was sort of like, now that's an addictive behavior. Like that's when you're actually having to like make a specific effort to go to another place to do the thing that you've been told you're not supposed to do, then you're starting to go very much into the depth of addictive behaviors, and that's super unhealthy. Yeah.
Oh, it's sad.
To the point of it only takes one or two kids in the class to have one of the smart devices for it to be a problem. Not only just that it means all the kids then want to try and get one. At the end of the day, however safe you try to make your child's smart device, you don't know what's on those other two kids' smart devices, how strict the parental controls are, how much they've worked out how to get around the parental controls already. So out of home, 2 kids is all it takes for all of the kids to see whatever the things those kids have then been exposed to. That's what I always find very scary.
Yeah, I interviewed another parent coach actually on this podcast a few months ago. And she said that her 11-year-old, she allowed her to have WhatsApp. She was very much a screen-free parent. She has a very alternative lifestyle in Ibiza. And she was like, we don't have screens. I think her ex-partner had given her an iPad. And then, you know, slowly a screen was introduced into her life. And then she ended up giving her a smartphone that was her own phone, her work phone. And she said, this is not your phone. That's important for you to know. But I will allow you to use it just to keep connected to your friends as they've got them, you know. And then she thought WhatsApp was quite safe. And another kid had sent her some really explicit, very, very damaging, awful content on WhatsApp, like one of these stickies that kind of disappears. And she said she had to have EMDR therapy to essentially remove like the emotion that was attached to that. It was like something that just sounded awful. And but when she told me that, I thought, oh no, WhatsApp's definite. Like you hear that it's not good for kids, but when you hear that, you're like, oh yeah.
So I mentioned before that my son was the last to get the smartphone in his class, but he was then the last to get WhatsApp because we resisted another year
Yeah.
pretty much up towards 13 before we put him on. And because of being exposed to all of this from KARRI and knowing of what's going on in the industry and what's going on in society, I'd prepared this like 1 hour speech for him where I gave him the entire speech about safe use of WhatsApp. I was like, you've had a smartphone for 6 or 8 months already, and you probably thought that was kind of wild, but like when you go into WhatsApp, it's the Wild West. So we need to sort of prepare you for a little bit how it's going to be in there. There's certain things we can't protect you from, even if we wanted to try. So I gave him the speech, gave him all of the good stuff, like never show a picture of your face to a stranger, never accept a contact from somebody you don't know, never have a profile picture that shows anything that identifies you, etc. Did all of that. And already just 1 week later, he came upset to my wife while I was actually away for work, almost crying actually, and said, oh, something really bad has happened. And then he began describing how he'd been added into a WhatsApp group, not that he wanted to be in, his friend had put him into the group. And as soon as he was in, somebody started talking to him in a super friendly way, a girl actually, who eventually, after some days, then started to say that she was thinking of killing herself and sending pictures of vodka bottles on top of the building and stuff. And my son, despite all of the briefing and pictures and things I'd explained to him, fell for it hook, line, and sinker, and actually came to my mind, like, I think this girl's going to kill herself. And of course, it turned out not to be a girl at all. I think when we reported it to the police, then it turned out to be some adult down in the south of Germany. So even with the best intentions, we didn't manage to keep him fully safe on WhatsApp in the way that we wanted to. And I think that's something every parent consider if they're thinking of doing any, like, we felt bad enough with 12 and a half, almost 13. But I think if you put a child of 8, 9, 10 into WhatsApp, it's a big risk.
Yeah, it's a recipe for disaster. And like you said, you can do everything you can, but these things can still be exposed to our children. It is scary, isn't it?
They lose their inhibition in those environments. One of the main things I'd said to my son was never, ever share a photo of yourself to anybody you don't know in real life. And of course, he had done that in the week that he'd been in that chat. So he also confessed to that and was very sad that he'd broken the rule. But I get it. I mean, like, you in those digital spaces, you can quickly lose your inhibition when you're that young. Like, you don't have the capacity to control your instincts at that age yet.
That's it. Yeah, their young developing brains are just not set out to know what to do with, these requests and this information. And yeah, it can happen to anyone. So anyone who's listening that has had a similar experience, it's, like you said, it's the Wild West out there and it's quite hard to control. Okay, just aware of time, and I really want to finish the podcast by asking one final question. And obviously, as I said, you're the first male that I've had on it. It's usually to do with like how you felt when you were pregnant. But if you think back to when you were a new dad, and what advice you might want to give new dad version of Pete, what would you say to him?
So I come from the UK and live in Germany. My wife is German, and that gives you that opportunity, if you take it, that you need to go home quite often, or you want to go home quite often, and you want to bring your child to your grandparent, to your parents, their grandparents, stuff. And one thing that gave me, which I wish I'd then taken even more of actually than I did in the early years with my son, was just like my son and daddy time. Because you then say, okay, I want to go over to the UK, but my wife was a full-time job, and so I want to take a 3 or 4 day trip over. And that means, like, as a dad, you then have to do the thing of, I'm going to pack a bag, and pack a bag for him. I need to think about everything I need, and then him and I are going to have a nice 4 day trip together, just the two of us. And when I think back now, as he's almost a teenager, those are like my favorite times that I remember with him, were the times that we went on our trips together. One time we even actually took a camper van. So we rented a camper van in Berlin and then drove all the way to the UK, stayed there for a while and then came back. So if I was talking to myself again at the time my wife was pregnant, I'd say, take as many of those trips as you can together, like get some good one-to-one time with your son, because it's the best of times.
Yeah. Oh, that's so lovely. And really, really great that you were able to have those experiences, because I think obviously for you, it's beautiful. But for him, I think, that kind of attachment, getting that kind of attachment to your dad and knowing that you've got that one-on-one time and just receiving that love from your dad. Oh, it's just beautiful, because I think a lot of dads probably wish that they could do that and they're not able to. And it's just really nice that you could do that. Thank you so much, Pete. And where can people find? I think, I know you guys are on Instagram, and on Instagram it's KARRI_IO. What's your website?
Yeah, it's www.KARRI, which is KARRI.io. And our Messenger 2 device is on pre-sale right now. If you buy it now, it's delivered in May. And you can already buy the Messenger 1 on the website, and it's delivered within a couple of days in the UK.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. And check the show notes, because there will be a link in the show notes where you guys can use a discount, and it's 15% with the code MindfulGen15, all in capital letters. But as I said, there will be a link in the show notes to that. And it's been really lovely having you on. Thank you so much for telling us your story all about KARRI and entrepreneurship and life as an entrepreneur, building something that is really meaningful and helpful to parents. So thank you so much.
Pleasure. And it was also an honor to be the first dad. So thank you.